What's
I
wrong
don't
with the
think
industry overall?
that's great question. You just went right into
Right
it.
into it, yeah. You asked me like, what's your last mile cost? Like, it was just like, it was the same
In what
thing.
way do you mean?
Well, I mean in the sense that if 1,000 rupees is going into making Bollywood movies, the net outcome is sub 1,000 rupees today.
Oh, really?
Well,
It depends
So,
which
are we talking
film
about
you're
like-
talking
Yeah.
about.
I'm talking about all films together.
Are you
in
talking about tier
culmination.
1? Like, what do you usually like segment?
Tier 1, 2, 3, everything.
No, I'm saying no, as in like, what kinds of Bollywood film? Like the big production houses you're saying?
Doesn't matter. Everything
All
put
in
together.
general.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to segment like indie stuff. Because indie stuff, most of them will fail, right?
The budgets will also not be as high.
I think.
No, I'm saying most indie films would not.
Okay, let me reverse
return.
engineer this. If all the distribution is not growing at the pace that it once was, that could be multiplex, single screens, streaming. Everybody's having a slightly bad time today with being able to monetize Bollywood in the
Yeah.
manner they once could.
I think it's because tastes are changing. Tastes have been changing for a while. Maybe sometimes we haven't really listened to what people really want to see and what people really want to hear. I feel
What do
a
you
lot
think?
of it
What do you
comes in
think
the
will
writing.
work in the future?
Uh,
How
It's a
are
really good
tastes of
question.
your generation changing?
till a few years ago, and this is not to say that it doesn't exist anymore, because there will always be that aspirational quality that we want to look at the movies and go to the movies to feel better, and it's just how we are, right, as a people and as a world, not just in India. But there is this certain aspirational quality that I feel that we felt very strongly about till quite recently, with the launch of OTT platforms and this term relatability, right, that we all talk about so much as the young people of this country. I just feel like that has changed the game. Wanting to look at whether it's dialogue, whether it's screenplay, whether that's performance, whether that's delivery, whether that's the way someone's styled on screen today, it all comes down to there's so much that goes into it, right? So I feel like when we're looking at the movies today, we care more for relatability rather than aspiration. That's a big gap that we've been figuring out how to fill, and we have figured it out wonderfully in some of our projects and films, especially on OTT.
What's happening with Bollywood amongst Gen Z? Is the interest in Bollywood going down compared to 10 years ago?
As a generation, we're craving the kind of films that we grew up loving and watching. I feel like recently, and I've had this conversation with a bunch of people in and outside of the industry, we're not making the kind of films that we grew up loving and watching, whether that's rom-coms, whether that's, situational comedies, whether that's certain genres. It's just fun, lighter films. I feel like while it's amazing that we've gotten into making more serious cinema and cinema that's so meaningful, which is so important, obviously, especially in towards a generation that is a thinking generation and that cares about things that have meaning and depth. And that's why films like Rocky or Rani and so many of the films that have been doing well recently that are lighter, more fun films, these are things that we're craving. We've also seen a very horrible time in every way recently. Every family has had, almost every family has had a loss. There's been a huge tragedy with COVID. Economically, we've just, been in this slump. So I feel like we just want to go back to the movies, and Gen Z we're at that exciting stage where we want to look at happier content.
What do you think about, I'm sure you guys will have some perspective, like what do you guys think about like films in India and like the distribution of films? Like if I'm, like what's the future of the way people watch films? Is it just going to be OTT? Do the PVRs of the world still have legs to grow on? What do you guys think? Like from a consumption perspective, like what do people our age want?
I really don't think you can, it's just something you can't replace, that experience of, and as a people, it's something, love OTT. I love OTT platforms. I love watching stuff on OTT platforms. All of us do, right? But there's just something that you just can't take away about that experience that we've all grown up loving, all age groups, anybody and everybody. The food aspect of it, the fact that you can actually come together as a community and a society and actually not have very many differences for a change.
Yeah.
And just sit together, be together for those 2 or 3 hours and just forget everything that could possibly be worrisome that day. And there's so much to be worried about, especially in the last few years. I feel like I can't wait for people to go back to the cinemas, and they are slowly flocking back.
No, it's interesting. But it's for the people that are in a tier 3 or a tier 4 city,
Yeah.
what about those folks? Like,
Sure,
have they gone through PVR kind of experience? in their, like, even in the past? Like,
You
they
ever
would not
watch
have, right?
Nikhil's content episode?
So I probably wouldn't be the right person to comment on that because I haven't had that experience.
So I'll give you some data.
Okay. Yeah.
I've been an investor in PVR for a long, long time.
Yeah.
The thesis in India broadly was, in America, the penetration of multiplexes. So in India, broadly, there are 9,000 screens. About 2,000 of them happen to be multiplex screens. The access to a multiplex in America is something like, for every 30 to 40 people, there's one multiplex or access.
Oh, wow.
I'm talking 30 to 40 from all directions.
Yeah.
That number in China is probably 1/10 of that. But in India, that number happens to be 1/100th of that.
Yeah.
So a lot of people assumed that a movie watching experience in a safe, clean, air-conditioned environment for a family would be so appealing that a lot more people will go watch movies. But that transition and that increased penetration in tier 2 and 3 has not happened for many reasons. A lot of these are very technical in nature. Like, we started a company to set up theaters in tier 2, 3 towns. I'll give you some details. Each theater, 2 screens, 60 and 40, tickets at about 150 rupees. In between the 2 screens, there would be like a grocery store, community center kind of a concept. At 60-70% occupancy, 1.5 crore capex per center, we assumed we would break even in X amount of time.
60-70% utilization, break even.
In 2-3 years' time.
But you would want that percent to be lower, right? Because you want to break even at 40 and then make money all the way to 100.
It's a factor of time. If you were to take 60 down to 40, then take it to 3 years, 4 years, 5 years.
Makes sense.
It's a factor of how much time you're willing to put into it. But regulation in India is quite cumbersome.
Okay.
It's a good and a bad thing. There have been disasters in India around fire, safety and stuff like that. But to display movies in that manner, you need to take care of those regulations, which make the cost prohibitive in a way. So the new thing multiplexes are exploring in India, because now there is one incumbent, right? Inox and PVR have merged. I think they're thinking about how to premiumize the experience, like in everything else. So the point I'm trying to get at is, every sector outside of groceries, because you guys are here, premiumization seems to be what is selling. I think people are coming to this decision that we arrived at this number for content business. We thought India has about 10 million people who will pay $10 a month and over to consume content, any kind of content.
That's 800 rupees.
800 rupees. About 40 million people will pay $1 and upward for consuming some kind of content. The rest of India will largely not be willing to pay to consume content.
Sure.
So our hypothesis has very much been, not ours, but just society at large and companies and corporations, there are 50 million people in India that you're truly building a product for if you're going down the premiumization route. And the more premium you go, the higher the rate of growth seems to be. That could be a factor of income inequality. That could be a factor of...
But by premium, what do you mean? Like, do you mean higher prices or better experience?
Both. They come hand in hand.
Hi, I'm Nikhil Kamath. I'd love to know what you thought of the episode. Comment, like and subscribe. And thank you for watching.